If I ran into you just out in the wild and you expressed to me, hey, Audrey, I am curious, but not certain, not fully invested in the idea of a natural birth. Or maybe you said, I'm wanting a natural birth, but I still am kind of nervous or I have some doubts. These three things that I am talking about in today's episode are most likely the things that we would talk about, or some of the things that we would talk about in that conversation. Of course, it would be heavily laced with the sovereignty and goodness and provision and wisdom and kindness of God, 100%. But these three things I have noticed tend to be what most often come out in conversations that I get into with natural birth curious moms. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Longing for a birth free from unnecessary interventions? One where you feel confident, empowered, and at peace, trusting your body to work as God designed? If so, you're in the right place. I'm Audrey, a Bible-believing Christian, childbirth educator, wife, and mama of 4. 2 born via C-section and 2 born at home. I know what it's like to feel overwhelmed by birth decisions, to wonder if you're crunchy enough for an unmedicated labor, or to fear another intervention-heavy birth. But with education, practical tools, biblical encouragement, and most importantly, by trusting the Lord, you can prepare for a natural birth with clarity, confidence, and even joy, and I'm here to help you do just that. So grab your water bottle, settle in, and let's prepare you to trust God's design for your body, your baby, and your faithful labor. Well, hey gang, so here I am again, taking another week off the epidural miniseries, but I promise I will finish that last episode soon. However, this week I thought it would be fun to make an episode that covered the top 3 things I find myself subtly or not so subtly inserting into conversations that I get into with expecting mamas the most. And of course, I talk about tons of different things with pregnant moms that I meet either one-on-one for coffee, like if we're intentionally trying to get together so I can educate, encourage, or give them advice about natural birth. Or it could be somebody that I meet at the park or at a play date who expresses even the slightest interest in asking me questions or wanting to learn about or pursue natural birth for herself. One of those things, the most important thing that I talk about, is always the Lord Himself and His kindness, His strength, His provision, the closeness that I have experienced with Him through experiencing unmedicated natural birth. That's always something that comes up in the conversations that I have. But outside of that, these 3 little talking points that I am going to be sharing with you today seem to be the ones that pop up the most often when I am offering encouragement to or some type of crash course natural birth prep advice or education to pregnant mothers that I meet just out in the wild. So, number 1, this phrase clung to my mind. It still clings to my mind anytime I think about the work of birth. And this is something that one of my friends in our church small group said to me. And granted, she said this to me when I still thought she was just the crazy home birth lady because I didn't know at the time, of course, that I was going to go on to have 2 home births of my own. And so she said this and it just really stood out to me, even though I really had no awareness that this is something that I would be applying to my own future births. She said, your body is not going to, or it can't self-create a sensation that will kill you. And the reason why this one is so profound for me is because it's scientifically true. Your body is constantly trying to keep you alive. That is its job. It's trying to operate in a way to allow you to live, right? Now, even if sometimes in our fallen world, there are failures in the functionality of how our body works, the main design of our bodies is to keep us alive. And so this quote was so helpful to me, especially in the moments of transition, building up to transition, active labor, pushing phase of labor, when the work of birth is extremely hard, really, really intense. Remembering this quote, just having this quote going off on repeat in my mind, was a comfort because it reminded me that as hard as this is, as intense as this feeling is, the muscle contraction of my uterus is not designed to kill me. It is designed for a good purpose. And the purpose is to move my baby down and out of my body and into my arms. And that's a really good thing. And that's a lot of work to do. That's a lot of power and pressure that needs to come behind it. And so it was just helpful because there is a moment, and I do not want to scare anybody who has not had a baby yet. If you're listening and you're a first time mom, this podcast is not meant for that, okay? But I do want to say this in the most delicate of terms. There is a moment, not every time, because I know some women who the whole birth is calm, peaceful, and they never really reach a point of feeling like they can't do it. They will say that the whole time it just felt calm and peaceful. And that's true. And I really believe that for them. I, however, in both of my births, have reached a point, still calm, still peaceful, but definitely have reached a point where I think to myself, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. This is too intense. This intensity, this power is too great for me. And I remember with my first birth thinking, I had a moment where I thought, I think I'm going to explode. I have so much power just coursing through my body right now. I just don't know how I'm gonna be able to make it because I think I'm just gonna explode. It's such a weird feeling. It's hard to put into terms, but clinging to this quote again, knowing that no, I'm not gonna explode. Yes, my body can do this. And no, this is not going to kill me. Is it going to be really hard? Yup, it is. But is it designed to kill me? No, it's not. And that also helped bring down my fear. These contractions, my body having this urge to push. I didn't have to fear it, and that helped me a lot. So that is number one. Your body is not going to, or it can't, self-create a sensation that will kill you. Now let's move into number two. Train for birth like you're training for a marathon, or like you would train for a marathon. I know not everybody out there is going to be training for a marathon, and you've never trained for a marathon, you don't ever want to, but you know the idea behind it. You know what it takes for people to train for marathons, even if you yourself never will. It's not just something that you're just going to show up on race day to do. It is something that you spend time and energy and effort and physical preparation to get ready for. It's not something that you just snap your fingers, show up, you're doing it, and you expect to win first place. No, no, no. Anybody will say, though, that's crazy. It's impossible. You're not just going to succeed at your marathon. You're not just going to make it through without having done something ahead of time. And for me, going with the flow with my first two births did not work out for me. And I know some women who that's the approach they take to their birth. They want to show up. They want to be told what to do. They let their doctor or their providers in the room with them take the reins, and they have their baby, and they don't really feel like they have any trauma from that. They don't feel like they have any loss of experience. They would think it's fine. And that's great. And I'm genuinely glad that people like that feel that way. However, for me, it was not a good move. And I think this analogy, this whole training for birth like you would a marathon analogy, resonates so much with me because I ran cross country in high school and we trained all the time. Through the season, we were always running early in the morning and we were always doing all sorts of different workouts and sprints and all those things. And it was exhausting. It was time consuming. There was sacrifice, getting up early, going to bed earlier, but it made me ready for race day. And it made sense, of course. The more I trained, the more intentional I was. If I did it at home when I wasn't at school, this training, this endurance training, then I would perform better at my next race. But if I skipped a lot of practices, if I wasn't training at home, if I wasn't eating well, if I wasn't getting enough sleep, then it was going to impact my performance. That is just something that just makes sense, right? If I had understood that, if I had taken that thought process, if I had taken that logic and applied it to birth with my first two deliveries, the outcome would have been astronomically different. And now I'm happy with the outcomes. Not necessarily because they were great experiences, but because from them, God has taught me so much. And I've grown in my relationship with Him. I have seen His hand on my life and on the healing journey He's taken me through that I wouldn't trade for the world. I wouldn't redo or change what has happened in my past births. However, just because I wouldn't change anything now doesn't mean I want to see that same kind of thing repeated for other moms. I don't want the same things that I went through because of my lack of knowledge, because of my lack of preparation, to be something that's perpetuated amongst other future moms or other moms who are preparing for another baby. So when I say that to somebody, I really hope that what they take away from that analogy is it's on me to prepare. It's on me to take the responsibility of how ready I am for this birth. You can't prepare for a race by watching somebody else run their race, right? That doesn't make sense. And you can't prepare for a race by just listening to what the coach tells you to do and then not doing it. You have to prepare for your race by doing the things yourself. So then when we apply that to birth, then what that looks like is educating yourself. That looks like taking the time to come up with a birth plan or hire somebody to help you work through figuring out your birth plan. It might look like hiring an encourager, a doula, somebody who's going to run with you through the race. And now, granted, she's not really going to be doing it with you in the sense of you're doing the work, but having somebody who can uplift, encourage you. It always meant a lot to me personally when my coach would run alongside me different stints of the course and tell me, keep going, keep going. That, I don't know, that really just motivated me. And so I think of a doula as somebody kind of like that, who's there with you, encouraging you, telling you to keep going. The finish line is so close, it's up ahead. Hiring people like that, doing lots of mental prep, preparing for the work that's ahead of you. Also thinking about comfort measures, either having your doula teach you those things, hiring a birth educator to help you with those things, or you can find so much on YouTube. You can find tons of free resources, even if you just Google things. So it's education, it's looking into things, it's hearing encouraging stories, it's getting your mind around what's to come, looking at your options, and just taking responsibility and preparing. Not just a little bit, not just here and there, but really dedicating time and intentionality and consistency to preparing for the marathon ahead, which is birth. So that is number 2. Number 3, and this one I actually have evidence that somebody I said this to, it really impacted her birth. She came back later and told me that that really stuck out in her head from the conversations we had. So here's number 3. Mammals are able to stop, reverse, or slow down labor when they perceive a threat or they get stressed. Okay, so I don't actually remember when I heard this. It might have been in a book I read, might have been in a podcast. I truly can't remember. But I like to bring up this little tidbit about mammals. And I usually give the example of the way God designed when it's the time for the deer to give birth, they're going to go to a nice, dark, quiet place and have their baby there. But God is wise and He knows that there's predators out there. And so when they perceive a threat, when a predator is near, they, in order to preserve their life and the baby's life, are able to literally halt labor, get somewhere safe, and then they can resume it again. I like to bring that up because I do want women to understand that when they stall in labor, when they even find that their centimeters dilated maybe goes backwards a little bit, or when things just seem to be taking so long, yes, it can have something to do with the baby's positioning. Yes, it can have something to do with your body needing some support, helping getting you into a different position. It also can be related to stress. It can be related to your body, whether you're able to mentally put all the pieces together that you're feeling threatened or you're feeling stressed. You might not be mentally thinking those things, emotionally feeling those things, but your body might. Your body might be responding to something that you're not even fully aware of. So, another reason I like to bring this up with moms is because I find in a lot of conversations that I've gotten into, I find that the environment that a woman is preparing to give birth in is not something that is typically prioritized or really dug into or really properly assessed before labor happens. And it should be. It should be something that is on a mom's radar to make sure that she's choosing a environment to give birth in that will be conducive to peace and calm and quiet, or she is able to connect with her team of providers or her support people in whatever place she's going to be at, and she's able to give instructions and clear outlines for what she would like her birth space to be like so that they can honor that, or so that they can help make that possible for her. So if that is in the hospital, and that is for a lot of women where they feel safe, where they do feel comfortable, and that's great. This is not a pitch for home birth. I do love home birth, and I do really encourage that in a lot of conversations I get into, depending on what kind of feedback the mom's offering me. However, I also realize it is not a blanket option. Like, it is not the place to give birth. It was for me, it is for me, but I know that's not the same for everybody. A mom has to give birth where she feels most safe and comfortable and calm, and that is not home for everyone. And so I want to make that clear. I want to make a clear distinction there. But if a mom is choosing to birth in the hospital, there are some things that would be wise for her to consider before she enters into the hospital, in order to help ensure that she is able to have a safe, calm space created. Because by default, the hospital is going to have bright lights. There's going to be a lot of noise. There's going to be a lot of entering and exiting the room. However, if you are going in and you have a birth plan in place, or you have a doula or a strong advocate in your husband who clearly knows how to maximize the space, make the most of your environment, your room, so that it is calm, peaceful, quiet, like dimming the lights or having like candles that are battery operated on the windowsill, having gentle music playing, having a sign on the door that asks that they wouldn't just come in and out unnecessarily, these kind of things. And there's so much more to that too, but having a plan in place, or having people that you can count on who will help you implement the plan, that can be so beneficial to moms to help support this environment that you can feel safe and calm and at peace in, wherever that is, wherever that is. I know for me at the house, I love to go all out and put like twinkly lights and birth cards, scripture all over my walls to help remind me and reroute me in truth, to keep my mind fixed on the Lord. I like good smells, so there might be a candle burning or essential oils in like a diffuser going. I really love to romanticize my birth space because I'm going to be there for a little while, maybe, although a couple of my births have been really, really fast. But I do want the space to be having a calming effect on my mind and my body by proxy. And so I really do try to be intentional about making the space supportive of what my body needs to relax and have a baby. And so I like sharing this little dear story tidbit about the importance of having a calm, cool, quiet environment for birth with the moms that I get into conversation with, so that maybe it can kind of ping their brain to better assess or better plan for whatever their birth environment's going to look like, whether they need to change that and plan to birth somewhere different, or they need to try to make the most out of whatever space they're going to be entering into. And for that, you got to be prepared. You got to be thinking in advance for those things. And so I feel like this story, this little example, does a really good job of giving them a little bit more motivation to think critically and preparedly about that, because the environment in which we give birth in and the people we have surrounding us when we give birth can play a really pivotal role in our mind and our body's overall ability to relax and feel calm. And I do not want moms to miss out on this really key bit of information. So that is it. Those are my three things that if we were sitting down for coffee, tea, whatever you like to drink, These three things, as well as several other things, also laced heavily with the sovereignty of God and His goodness, all those things would be coming up in our conversation. And so I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed these three little tidbits. And that is all I have for you guys today. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And you can be on the lookout for another episode coming out later this week since I missed last week as my little bonus treat to you guys. So I will catch y'all later this week, and God bless. Thanks for joining me today, friend. If you were encouraged by or learned some new helpful nugget through listening to today's episode, the best way to let me know is by leaving a written review on Apple Podcasts and sharing the show with a friend. Taking 30 seconds to leave a review and share an episode might feel like no big deal, but it truly means so much to receive your feedback and know that this podcast is getting out there to more mamas who need it. Before we part ways until next Wednesday, I'd like to pray Ephesians 3:20 over you. Now to Him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us, I pray that God would be mightily glorified through you as you seek to honor Him with your faithful labor. Amen, and God bless.